بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I mentioned that when a person dies, then the ruh of that person meets his or her relatives that had passed on before. So it comes in one hadith sharif, there was a lady among the Sahaba. She lost her son. The son's name was Bishr ibn Bara ibn Ma'rur radiallahu anhu. So after the son died, she loved the son a lot. It was a big loss for her. It was very, very difficult for her. She went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said, Ya Rasulullah, when people die, do they meet each other? She asked this question. When people die, do they recognize each other in the akhirah? Now, when we speak of akhirah, there's two things I must explain. When a person dies, then you enter the sphere of life which is called the barzakh. You enter barzakh. So if a person is buried, the person might be in that qabr, but he's actually in another world, and that's known as the world or the alam al-barzakh. That is why some people, they drown at sea, you don't get the body. Some people are devoured by animals, or they are burnt out, you don't get any body. So it doesn't mean that person is not in a qabr, that person is in the barzakh, and that is where all the questioning and the reward and the azab, whatever takes place. So she asked Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, do people recognize each other there in the barzakh? So he replied, they recognize each other just like the birds on the treetops recognize each other. So they know who has passed away, they meet the person, they speak to that person. Then after that, what she did, anyone in the family who died, who is dying, she would go to that person and say that when you die, then give my son salams. So obviously she now realized, and she got the answer from Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that the amwat, the arwah of the dead, they meet each other. So this person will pass on my salam to my son. There's one incident, a unique incident, that a man lost his son died, and he also missed his son a lot. And then what Allah Ta'ala made it such, now this is Allah's rahmat, when you make sabr, then sometimes Allah helps you in unique ways. So every Thursday night, he would dream of his son. And he would dream, the dream was like real life. The son would sit with him and talk, and like talk for hours with him. So when he wakes up, he would feel so satisfied and happy that I met my son now. It was a regular thing every Thursday night. So he like just waited for Thursday night, I'm going to meet my son. So that grief and that bereavement was actually overcome through this. And then one Thursday came, he never saw his son in the dream. For the whole week, he didn't see his son. He saw him after 1 week. When he met his son or spoke to his son in the dream, so he asked his son, what happened? Why didn't you come for this past week? So the son said that Allah Ta'ala instructed all our souls to go and welcome a certain person that died. And that was Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahimahullah. Imagine Allah Ta'ala says, and we spent 1 week with him, speaking to him and in his company. That's why I couldn't come to you. This was the command of Allah. So you see, the pious people, obviously, they meet each other. That's why I said that if a person dies and the relatives will meet him, then they ask about so-and-so, where's he? We didn't see him. How's he? So the new mate will say, look, he died a long time. So then they will say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. That means he's gone somewhere else. He's not in our company. He's not in the good company of the pious people. We find many of the Sahaba and the Tabi'in, when someone passes away, the pious among them, they would tell that person that convey my salams to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another thing we mentioned about the souls of people, and this is also important, when a person dies, it comes in the hadith sharif, Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu narrates this hadith. When a person dies, then they give him ghusl, they give kafan, they carry the body. Whatever happens to the body, the maid is aware of this. He knows who's giving him ghusl, he knows who's giving him kafan, and he actually feels. That's why they say you need to be careful with the maid. It feels that pain. One day, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was passing by some people, obviously in the early stages of Islam, and people came out of the Jahiliyyah, so they did funny things. So he saw them breaking the bone of a mayyit. Then he stopped them. He says they were burying this person. For some reason, they were breaking the bone. So he says that the mayyit feels the same pain as a living person. So this is haram. You don't break the bones. That's why we say when you carry the mayyit also, one has to carry it with a certain amount of care because it feels that pain when you're giving ghusl and so forth. So the maid knows exactly who's washing him, who's wrapping the coffin, who's making his janazah salah. And then the maid also speaks to the living people. Now that we don't hear. It's only man and jinn that don't hear this. But the rest of Allah's creation, the animals, they hear that as the maid is being taken to the qabristan, if it's a good person, then the person says, Qaddimuni, ajjiluni, take me forward quickly, take me quick, I want to meet my reward by Allah. And if it is a person who's not so good, then he says, Aina tadhabuna bi, where are you taking me? Aina tadhabuna bi, where are you taking me? It's like a very, one who is in grief and in great worry and anxiety. We make dua Allah Ta'ala make our end with Iman and with Aman Salihah. Subhanallah.